Okay, so I've had a lot of questions online about the conversion I did for the Surron, where I put the KTM 65 fork setup on the front end. And so I made some adapters to fit those on. And so I'm going to have it all torn apart right now because I actually had a failure on my adapter, which I have ways of improving on that for the next round. And like I said, there's potential I'll possibly sell these, but because right now they're actually 3D printed pieces, so it's two little pieces that look similar to this. They're a little bit different top to bottom, but the failure I had this weekend, or a few weeks ago, was this lip right here actually busted out, and what caused it was I had to run a spacer on top, and the spacer I was running was a little bit too narrow. So it was actually not fully loading the outer lip. It was loading more of the center line, so it actually pushed the spacer through the bearing. So like I said, long-term goal is if I end up selling these, I'm going to sell them make them out of aluminum. So that shouldn't be an issue, and I may actually increase the lip a little bit on the next design. So just, I guess, I'll show you how they install them. So this one is already installed. You have first you install the dust seal, and then my recommendation is to install the adapter first before you install the bearing, because whenever you're pressing this down, it's best to make sure you load this surface here, so that way you don't get any you don't end up ripping out the seal like I did on this one, because actually the first one of these I installed, I ended up putting the bearing on first, and then I was tapping on the bearing, and then the bearing actually ripped out just like this. So ripped off that little lip right here. So once again, if it's made out of aluminum, this may not even be an issue, but it's always best anyway to press on a spacer rather than on the bearing. So anyway, this one's already installed. I'm not removing it, but this is what it'll look like once it's already in on the bottom. And I'll show you all how to do the top one. So I'm replacing that one right now anyway. So you simply take the bearing. You have a tapered side where it goes from small diameter to big diameter, and you want to insert this with the lip from the lip facing out on the side of the larger diameter. Simply take it, and this goes the same for both sides, top and bottom. And once you get in there, you just simply press it in, and that's it. And it's a pretty snug fit, both on here and actually on the stem. And so once you have that, and my countermeasure to prevent that, like I said, is just to end up putting a larger washer so it loads this whole surface. And future, if I make them out of aluminum, I may end up bringing the lip all the way out to this outer surface of the bearing, so it actually loads the full bearing rather than just this little tiny lip. So anyway, you just set it in, and you take your triple clamp and pass it through, just like you would on a normal bike when you're taking it apart. And like I said, it's a little bit of a tight fit. I think if I do my aluminum, I'm going to open up this a little bit, give it a little more clearance, because right now you actually have to tap it on. But anyway, that's all I'm going to do for now. But anyway, you just go down until this is fully seated, and then you would take your top triple clamp, and then you would put your dust seal. Let me put this real quick. So it goes dust seal, which this one's torn up, so I'm gonna have to replace it. So dust seal, washer, then your spacer, and then triple clamp. You could actually do it the other way too. You could go this triple clamp first and then spacer on top. That's how I was originally running it. But I have reasons that I wanted to actually switch it around for adjustment purposes. But anyway, that should be it. And it's the same process for the 65 or the 85, I believe. once again, I don't actually have the 85 forks, so I can't really compare those. So now my recommendation is actually to go to the 85 if you're going to do this conversion, for multiple reasons. One, the forks are a little bit longer, and you get another 2 inches of travel. And the reason I mentioned longer forks is because this is originally designed for a 14-inch wheel, and so whenever you add the 19-inch, it ends up that the wheel will actually bottom out into the fender unless you do this extension. Which, that's the other thing I was going to mention, is that I have extended these by about an inch. Normally this fork guard would be in line with the bottom of the upper leg, and these are the old KTM 65 forks, I believe 02 to 08, where they did not have any adjustments, clicker adjustments, and these are the only ones that I know how to extend like that. So that's the big reason I'd recommend just go ahead and go in with 85s, because you get the compression and rebound adjustments as well. And my understanding is that they only gain maybe 1 to 2 pounds, where these are already gaining about 8 to 9 pounds over the stock front forks. So if you're already gaining that much weight, you might as well just throw in a couple extra pounds and get a more robust setup with more adjustment. And the other thing, for doing it on 65, on 85 you can actually just use the whole front wheel and front brake and everything. For this, I am running the KTM front brake, but in order to do that, you really want to run a thicker rotor. But unfortunately, this rotor was just a generic pit bike rotor, and it's a little bit too thick, so I'm always getting a little bit of rubbing from the brakes. But the big thing is that I had to run an adapter. This is about a 10mm adapter to get the spacing right, and so you end up having this weird disc where it's mountain bike hub spacing for the front rotor, and then you have your adapter to the rotor and all this, and it's a real big hassle to do. And then you also have to run spacers to adapt this from the 20mm axle down to the 15mm axle. Whereas if you do the 85 fork, you can just literally do everything from an 85, bolts right on. The only thing you're changing is the spacers and the headset for the bearings. And anyway, like I said, this was just a real big pain to make. I was originally thinking about selling all that as a kit, but it just ended up being such a big hassle. The kit would end up costing probably $300 or $400. And then on top of that, 65 forks are almost impossible to find at a good deal because all the pit bike guys use them. So whereas the 85 forks you can typically find for usually about $300 or $400 cheaper than the 65s. So, and they actually do use the exact same brakes. The only difference is that the rotors actually on the 85s are a little bit bigger, so you get even more braking power from that. And just for comparison, this is the caliper that you get on the 85 and 65 forks. You can see it's massive. Come here to the back, show you compared to the original brake rotor right here. So you can see how much beefier this is, and you get a way more brake pad. So anyway, I think that about covers it. And I hope that helps anyone that ends up putting these on. And like I said, if I end up doing it on aluminum, I will make another video showing exactly the whole process, how to do it, because I'll have to do it online. But these have held up. It was just a stupid mistake where I torqued it down too far and ended up busting that out. But anyway, like I said, hopefully this helps. And I already have one guy testing to make sure it works on at 85. And so if that does work out, then I'm going to go ahead and go through with the order of ordering a batch of aluminum ones. So, all right, thanks.